Well, here we go again. And of course, that old-fashioned radio sounder reminds you that, hey, stop what you're doing, or at least take time to pay a little bit of attention, because we might actually have something important to say, something helpful to you. But we would be grateful if you'd give us your time and attention. And we're grateful for you when you do that, and even sometimes when you decide to leave early. We can handle that. However, you will stay tuned today because I have the guru of questions. And he has brought into the world, both of business and communication, some very unique findings from his life. And so I'm going to introduce you to the Bob, the Bobber of Questions. Bob Tiede, tell us who you are and what you do.
Stan, great to be with you. Well, I've been on the staff of Campus Crusade for Christ, now called Cru, for 53 years. We spent 8 years in Cru campus ministry, and then for 24 years, I had the privilege of working with Josh McDowell, and the Josh McDowell Ministry is a division of Cru. I was the CEO. And then now for the last 20 years, I've been on the U.S. Leadership Development Team, focused on developing that next generation of leaders for Cru. But you have referenced my work. My blog is Leading with Questions. And Stan, whenever I speak, I start with a confession. And my confession is that for most of my career, I was a benevolent dictator.
Okay.
My only paradigm of leadership was that the job of a leader is to give direction. It is to tell staff what to do. And I did say benevolent. Stan, if you'd been on my team, I don't think I ever would have said, hey, Stan, go do this. It would have been more like, hey, Stan, here's what we're working on. It'd really be great if you could please do this. But it was still telling you what to do. And when you did it, I would have said, thank you. At a staff meeting, Stan, stand up. You all need to hear what Stan did. And I don't want to suggest we got nothing done, but I am confessing the only paradigm of leadership I had was the job of a leader was to tell stuff. And for me, that changed in 2006 when I discovered the first edition of the book, Leading with Questions by Dr. Michael Morquart. Stan, that book was filled with stories of leaders literally from around the globe, not just the U.S., who were leading with questions, and the questions they were using to lead. And as I read that book, I had only one question. Why hasn't anyone ever shared this with me before?
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I was an instant convert. So, Stan, that's my story.
Okay. So you have now become a convert to the idea that modern leadership is being very, very present and perhaps listening and not telling, not directing totally, but even more so, listening, being very present, and asking questions. Now, where has that led you? What kind of insights and ideas has that led you to?
Well, Stan, let me start here. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Have you learned the fine art of looking like you're paying attention when somebody is talking on and on and on, when in fact your mind might be 1,000 miles away?
I'm a pretty good actor, yes.
Stan, I've yet to meet a person who's told me, nope, I don't know how to do that.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. And I have a friend who says, whenever we speak, and he didn't mean from the platform, just in a conversation with a friend, he said, you ought to imagine that there's traffic light right there, green, yellow, and red. He said, when you start speaking, the light stays green for about 2 minutes.
Okay.
You talk more than 2 minutes. That's such a short amount of time. But more than 2 minutes, you ought to imagine it's starting to flash yellow. Some people are leaving you. Yes, they're nodding and looking like they're paying attention. And he said, if you get to more than 5 minutes, you ought to just know the light has turned red. They're sitting there, but they're no longer with you.
No, that's a great mental picture. And maybe even there's sirens coming or something too,
Yeah. Well, Stan, guess how you get them back?
Okay. You know how. Tell me how.
You
Show
ask
me how. Yeah, that's right.
Question.
Yeah.
You ask them a question. Stan, let's just imagine your mind's 1,000 miles away.
That happens.
And I say,
my mind's in the
hey,
twilight
Stan,
zone sometime.
Yeah. When you're there and I say, hey, Stan, can I ask you a question? Where instantly does your attention now come to?
Well, first of all, you did something really nice. You used my name, didn't you?
Yes.
That's important to me, you know. Oh,
yeah.
This is for me. Yeah, right now, I'm fully present. Boom. Yep.
Yeah. No matter where you were, when somebody says, Stan, can I ask you a question? You immediately focus on listening for their question. What are they wanting to ask? Will I understand it? How will I answer? And Stan, if I ask that kind of question, let's say it requires an opinion, even as you begin to speak, you're going to be reading my face to see, do I understand? Am I pleased? Am I confused? Or am I even upset? You will even edit what you continue to speak based on reading my face. What's fascinating to me, Stan, is that when we ask somebody a question, we get 100% of the computing power of their brain from the time we start asking to the time they've finished answering. And then if we start speaking again, you know, the green, yellow, red light may take place. But if we've talked too long, we get them back when we say, hey, Stan, I've got another question for you.
That's right. That's kind of how, you know, and those of us who are very, you know, kind of A personalities who, you know, we may not have attention deficit disorder, but we oftentimes live that way, you know, that we just kind of zone out. That's a good insight that you help bring me back, even though I may have good intentions, I just kind of, you know, drift off. And you're bringing me back into the deal. Good. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. That drifting off, like you say, it's not that we choose to, okay, I'm not going to pay attention anymore, but it just happens.
Right.
You know, Stan, I love your, you know, the theme of your podcast, Interesting Ideas.
Yes.
And, you know, another thing I share that I trust is interesting is that a leader who leads with questions is often 10 times more effective than a leader who simply leads by telling. And of course, people say, well, Bob, how's that possible? Well, Stan, I'm glad you asked.
Right. That's right.
Stan, I have a couple questions, but the first one's a silly question, but just go with me because I'm going somewhere.
All right.
I want you to imagine that you have a team of 9 plus you, so there's 10 on the team, and you're all in a big rowboat. Everybody's got an oar in their hand, and you as a leader want to get that rowboat across the lake as quick as possible. How many of them do you want to have row with you?
I think I want all of them.
Yes, I told you it was a silly question. Right. But now, Stan, that same team is gathered around your conference table, you and all 9 others. And there's an opportunity on the table. Now, listen carefully. If you're a leader like I used to be, the benevolent dictator, and you think it's your job as a leader to figure out how to take advantage of the opportunity, and then you will tell the 9 others what to do, how many mental oars are in the water trying to figure out how to take advantage of the opportunity?
Let me tell you, I know. Oars are up. That's right.
Only yours.
That's
only
right.
One. But imagine you're a leader who leads with questions. So you share about the opportunity, and then looking around the table, you make eye contact with everyone, and you say, team, gang, what do you think we might do here to take advantage of this? Now, how many mental oars may be in the water?
Well, I don't know if you'll have all 9, but you'll have most of them, at least thinking about it. Yeah, right.
And as you hear all those ideas, what's the probability that you might hear an idea better than you were thinking?
Well, a lot of us would like to believe there's not much of a chance, but you know, there really is. In fact, what I've found in my own experience is if I'm good about that is they will let me even think it was my idea when they come up with it.
Well, it also works in reverse,
Right.
but yeah, as you share that, it's not a guarantee, but because you're hearing multiple ideas, the probability is you might hear one better than you were thinking.
Hmm.
And let's just imagine one of your team members seated across the table from you is Sarah. And
Okay.
Sarah shares an idea, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, it's brilliant. That's better than anything I was thinking. And so you lean forward, you say, Sarah, love your idea. In fact, Sarah, would you lead our team in executing on that?
Sure.
How hard will Sarah work?
Well, I oftentimes say in my leadership work is that everybody has a secret sign in front of them, and it says, please tell me I'm important. And what
Yes,
you just did is you told Sarah she's important.
yes.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously she's going to work hard because guess whose idea she's executing?
It's hers. She owns
Hers.
it. Yes.
Yeah. And in that team situation, it may also be that the team will build on Sarah's idea as you continue. Hey, you love that, Sarah. And John adds another thing, and Sam adds, and Betty comes through. And now the team owns the decision because they feel like, well, involvement breeds commitment.
Yeah.
And they all had a part of it. And at any rate, Stan, that's how a leader who leads with questions can be so much more effective. And when I began to see that, I shared earlier, I became an instant convert. It's like, how could I have missed this?
Yeah, that is so true. I remember a few things that came into my life just where as I got older, particularly in my 40s, about some things I learned, and I said, why did it take me to get into my 40s and 50s before I found this out? That type of experience, I've had that. Yeah. Right.
Well, Stan, another idea, but I'll put it in terms of a question. Whenever I speak, I ask my audience, who here would like to learn to lead with questions in 30 seconds? Stan, every hand goes up.
Sure.
And I say, now, the reason I've asked this question is, I sense at times from the audience that everybody would like to learn to lead with questions, but may imagine they'll have to get a master's degree in questionology.
Right.
Nice
Yes.
idea, but wow, being able to do that will require immense study. It'd be nice to be a brain surgeon, make the kind of money they make, but it's not probable. There is no course on how to be a brain surgeon in 30 seconds. So at any rate, when I ask that question, every hand goes up. And I pull up a member of the audience and I say, hey, I've got a second hand on my watch here. Let's just see if this is possible. And Stan, as I bring them up, I also share, I picked you because I think you have a photographic memory. And they always kind of, shake their head like, no, I don't. And well, at any rate, Stan, I'm going to pick you today because I think you have a photographic memory. And all you're going to have to do is I'm going to share my 4 favorite questions. I'm then going to ask if you have them memorized, and you will. And if you say yes, I'm going to say share them. And so the clock starts when I start, clock ends when you share the 4th question. So Stan, with no pressure, are you ready to go?
I hope. Yes, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Stan, my first favorite question is, what do you think? Second, what else? Third, what else? Fourth, what else? Stan, do you have them memorized?
I think I got it.
Share them with us.
What do you think? And else, and what else?
Wow. Stan, I'm going to have to change this question to 17 seconds. Who would like to learn to lead with questions in 17 seconds? Now, Stan, whenever I do this, I can sense in the audience some people are a little skeptical. Like, Bob, you can't ask somebody, what do you think? What else? What else? What else? And I say, well, never in that rapid fashion. Again, imagine a conversation.
Yeah.
And of course, the first question, what do you think, is going to tie, you're going to add the topic. Hey, what do you think we ought to do about this opportunity, this challenge, this issue? There's going to be a topic. And Stan, in the past, even when I did ask a question, I'd ask the question, they'd give an answer. When they were done, I moved on. I didn't understand, and here's something that I think is a insightful kind of thought idea, is that when we're asked to give our opinion on something, our input, we instinctively roll out a safe answer. We're testing the waters. Again, this isn't conscious, but we throw that safe answer out to see how they treat it. So, Stan, if I asked you, hey, what do you think about some issue? And you give me an answer. And when you pause, I say, well, Stan, that's stupid. Everyone knows that. You're sorry you answered. Next time I ask, I'll get nothing. But when I say, wow, Stan, that's really good. What else?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to relax and say, wow. I mean, again, this is very quick in your mind. Well, Bob appreciates what I'm sharing, and you'll give me more.
Like, tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah. And when you pause again, I'm likely to say, Stan, let me grab a pen. I've got to take notes. Please say more about this.
Now, that is a wonderful, I want to use the word trick, but it is. That is really, I know about that, and that is true, isn't it? Yep.
Yeah. And Stan, it's really the third and fourth question that gets to their gold nugget, their very best thought.
Yes.
And, we've all heard the story, I'm sure it's proverbial, but of the old miner who mined looking for the gold vein all his life. He finally quits. And then somebody came along later and discovered the old miner was within 6 inches of the gold vein when he quit.
Yes.
Well, in this case, we're looking for their gold nugget. But if you only ask, hey, what do you think, and get their first answer, you got close, but you didn't get to it. You got to dig a little with the second, the third, and fourth question to get to their gold nugget, their very best thought. And Stan, let's back up a second. The promise that I was giving here is who would like to learn to lead with questions in 30 seconds? What I love about leading with questions is that so many of the best questions are so simple. They're not long, complicated kind of things. And so a leader who's only been a teller, if somebody in our audience today is saying, man, yeah, Bob, I've been a teller. How do I learn to lead with questions? Well, imagine your next meeting with one of your staff one-on-one or with your staff around your conference table, whatever the topic is. After you've shared the topic, simply saying, hey, Stan, what do you think we might do here? And then listen. And when Stan gives that first answer and pause, say, wow, that's good, Stan. What else? And Stan will say more. And when he pauses again, Stan, let me grab a pen. I've got to take notes. Right. Please continue. Just with these 4 questions, you will have moved from a leader who tells to a leader who asks. It's really that simple.
One of a guy who really kind of coached me on something about this. He was a sales guy, and he said, always remember this: make it safe and make it easy to begin. And that's what you're saying. It's easy to begin to do this. You're not gonna lose authority by doing this. In fact, you may gain more respect. And it's simple. Yeah,
absolutely.
And then I imagine you will, with time and practice, you'll probably get better at even some of the questions that come to you, or the questions that through your own life experience you know how to ask good, safe questions. Because I've read your books, and you know how to ask really great questions, my friend.
Well, thank you. Hey, Stan, I've got another insight. I hope another interesting idea.
Okay.
And that is, today, when I'm asked a question, I very, very often will say, can you please say more about that? In other words, rather than answering, I'll ask them to say more about that. Now, here's why. I don't know if this ever happened to you, Stan, but somebody asks me a question, I give them an answer, and most people are polite. They don't actually say, well, Bob, that wasn't my question. They kind of say, oh, thank you. And then they ask another question, and you realize they've just reworded their first question because you missed it.
Yes.
And so today, when somebody asks me a question, I'll often say more about that.
Okay.
Because when they say more, there's a benefit to them. They actually understand it better. But it also gives me time to make sure that if I choose to answer, I'm actually answering the question they're asking. And but it also buys me time when I choose to ask them another question and another that will help them find the answer to their question. But Stan, there's a funny little story I share of the value of when you're asked a question before answering, asking the person who asks you, can you please tell me more? Here's the story. Little Johnny, he's 7 years old. He comes running into the house yelling at his mom, 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 where did I come from? His mom has not been expecting the question, not at age 7. But collecting her thoughts just a bit, she invites Johnny into the living room where she shares all about the birds and the bees. Little Johnny's eyes are white as saucers as he takes in every word. And when she's done, she says, so now, Johnny, do you understand where you came from? And he shouts again, no, Joey said he came from California and asked me where I came from.
Yeah. I think some of us have done something similar.
Yeah. At that point, do you think Johnny's mom had wished when he came running the house yelling, Mom, 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 where did I come from? She said, Johnny, tell me more. He would have immediately said, Joey said he came from California and asked me where I came from. And she could have said, Johnny, you're born right here in Texas. You go tell that Joey you're from Texas. And Johnny would have had the answer he was looking for. Running back out, Joey, I'm from Texas, and Johnny's mom could have saved the birds and bees story for when perhaps that might be the question in a few years.
That's right.
A funny story, but like you say, we've all done something similar.
That's that is so true. Bob, this has been helpful. And, we're right now I'm going to tell people. Now, remember now what I want you to do, why a podcast is so great. Because when it's like this, 20 minutes about that, guess what? You can go back and listen to it again. And you should listen to this 2 or 3 times because each time you'll hear something and learn something more. But I bet you're ready to finish well. How's it going now? Give us a final thought on answering, leading with questions.
Well, Stan, can I make this offer? It's free.
Sure.
2 things. My blog is leadingwithquestions.com. It is now followed by leaders in over 200 countries, all who are committed to increasing their leadership effectiveness. And if you'll just go to leadingwithquestions.com, you can cursor down to the bottom right. There's a place to enter your email, click subscribe, and you will join that group of leaders. Subscribing is free.
It's a good deal. It is a very good deal. Yes.
And when you go to leadingwithquestions.com, up on the top, you're going to see the word books. If you click on that, you're going to have instant access to 5 free ebooks, actually available in multiple languages. Everything I do on social media is free. And so you can click and download 1, 2, 3, 4, or all 5. And again, downloading and accessing those ebooks are free. And just invite you, if this has been interesting today, there's a lot more resource out there for you. My commitment, my mission is helping leaders everywhere increase their leadership effectiveness by moving from leading by telling to leading with questions.
Well, one of the things that changed my life very much as a religious broadcaster was many years ago when I think her name was Rebecca Pippert, and she wrote a book called Out of the Salt Shaker and Into the World, and she had this line for all of us, those of us professional, religious, or spiritual, or business tellers. Her line was, the master teacher came into the world and he told stories and asked questions. So what do? We preach sermons and give answers. Maybe he had a good idea.
Stan, let me just add, my latest book released just a couple weeks ago is 340 questions Jesus asked.
Yes, I saw that and I ordered it. Absolutely.
Well, again, it's a free ebook. A free ebook.
That's right. He did. He asked questions. Bob, thank you for your time. You've been very grateful, graceful, and we are grateful for your time. And again, I would very much encourage you. He has given you a free gift, and it will be good for you, not only in your life and business, in some of those very strong and sometimes difficult human relationships, just to be very, very present and just be there and be fully connected and ask them questions. Let them discover the truth in other ways besides you telling them. Yeah.
Stan, it's been an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much. And those of you who had the opportunity and the honor to listen, I would appreciate you. Again, if they'd like, could they send an email to you, or is it best just to go to your website and contact you that way?
If they go to my website, there's down below is a place to make a comment, and that comes to me.
Very good. Well, Bob, thank you so much. This has been more than an interesting idea. It has been an interesting and, I believe, very fulfilling and hopefully very useful conversation for you all. I guarantee you that if you begin to do this, you will actually see some of your key relationships begin to change for the good, for the better, maybe even for the best. Thank you.